Hello, I'm James Henry, and this is The Message.
The Message.
Today, we are in the middle of a series about the fruits of the Spirit. And as I told you, fruits are things that can grow in everyone. When we talked about gifts of the Spirit last year, we were talking about the fact that certain people are given certain gifts and certain abilities that they can use in certain ways to build the body up. But the fruits of the Spirit are for all of us. All of us are meant to have love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, etc. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about that word kindness, what it means for us, what the biblical push for us in being kind is all about, and how we might stretch ourselves in the area of kindness. In many ways, kindness is an everyday kind of thing that most of us can practice simply by saying please and thank you. That's just the beginning right there. Basic manners are the beginning of kindness, but kindness also invites us to a deeper place. I'm convinced that kindness is about seeing the world in a different way, seeing each moment in your life as an opportunity. And in that opportunity, you get to do what you want to do. Somebody is mean to you in line at the Target, you can be mean right back. And guess what? I'm as good as any of you at being mean. I can say mean, sarcastic quips as quick as anybody else. Catch me on the wrong day, you don't even want to be near me. Especially if you want to call me out, because I'll call you back out. And the calling will not be a lovely thing either. But that's a bad choice. You see, I'm convinced that clip and this passage that we read from the Bible today are all intertwined with each other. And the intertwining piece is that we get to see the world through different eyes. That we get to live in a world where all around us are possibilities. You get up in the morning, and if you're like me, you are not a morning person. The thing that gets me through first thing in the morning is a regular ritual. If it's Monday through Friday, Linda has gone out with the dog. She has gotten up before I did and left me in bed. I hear her close the front door, which is a signal to me that I need to be out of bed soon because then I'm fixing breakfast. And so I roll out of bed, I put on my slippers, shoes, whatever. I go downstairs. If it's the wintertime, I put on my sweatshirt. Not while going down the stairs. I learned by habit that's not a good choice. You don't always catch all the stairs that way. It's kind of messy. I got to the bottom. You get to the stairs. I like to go through the oatmeal. I don't like to have to unload the dishwasher first thing in the morning, but I do when it's necessary because I can move things around and make things happen. But don't mess with me and say you want something other than oatmeal for breakfast, because then we're in deep water. Because that's what I make. That's what we do. I make Linda's oatmeal, the gluten-free kind. I make my oatmeal, the gluten-filled kind, apparently. I don't know. And life is good. So I can choose how I'm going to respond when somebody else gets up in the morning. If you're too jovial first thing in the morning to a non-morning person, you do not get a good response. Good morning! Yeah, I'm going back to bed now. You've got to find that balance in life. It may not be the kindest thing to be that jovial. But how do you see the morning? How do you see this new day? One of the things I learned to do years and years ago is before I even open my eyes, when I wake up in the morning, is to say thanks. Thanks to God for a new day. Because I'm alive. I'm breathing. Obviously, if I woke up and I wasn't alive and breathing, that would be a new thing too. And maybe I'd thank God, but in a different way. But to be thankful in this moment. So each moment offers its opportunity. And so the kind response to God's kindness for letting me wake up in the morning is to just be thankful. And to get up out of bed, and if it's Monday through Friday, to go downstairs and make breakfast most mornings. A couple of mornings this week, my wife was exceptionally kind to me because somewhere in the middle of the week, allergies turned into kind of a head, chest, ugly cold thing. And I only have one way of dealing with those things. I know that there are drugs you can take and zinc tablets, and some people it works for you, great. It doesn't work for me. Sleep works for me. Lots of liquids and sleep, and colds go away for me. So Linda let me sleep in Thursday. She let me sleep in Friday. And all I did was sleep all day long. You know something's wrong in my life when I'm sleeping 18 out of 24 hours for 2 days. And then I was great. And then I was stupid. I went to the sun without sunscreen for a long period of time. So I was so joyful that I experienced the kindness of the sun a little bit too much. So the truth is, kindness is all around. Your choice about how you react to each and every moment in your life is your choice. Just because you receive something ugly doesn't mean you have to give it back. Kindness is the choice. Kindness is the choice, perhaps, to do something different, to see the moment as filled with the fruit of possibility. Maybe you don't feel like talking right now, but there's a kind way to say that, and there's an unkind way to say that. And you can choose what you'll do in this moment. One day this week, Josh was home, my son, home from college after his first year, and we were in the house together, and we were about to take a walk. This is before I got really ill, so we could go for a walk, and we were going to go for a walk, and Josh is walking to the front door, and the doorbell rings. And so, in our house, we always like to look out the, peephole before we open the door. Not because we expect to push in robbery to happen or home invasion, but because some people who come to our door trying to sell us something that we're not interested in, and we've tried to be nice about it, and it just doesn't seem to work. So Josh looks out and says, "Dad, there are people at the door." Almost in that exact kind of way. And then he turns from the door and goes into the back room. So I get to make a choice now. We were getting ready to leave for a walk, and there are apparently people at the door. And it turns out to be Jehovah's Witnesses. I have nothing against Jehovah's Witnesses personally at any level. I think that they have a great deal of zeal. It's just like my Mormon sisters and brothers who show up at the front door. I wish I had as much zeal as they did about my faith that I would go door to door and knock on people's doors. Maybe none of you would ever come to church that way because James would have knocked at your door and I would have been jovial and you would have said, "I ain't going to that place." But in any case, these were the same Jehovah's Witnesses who had visited me one Saturday morning recently, and it was a follow-up visit. Because you see, they came the first time and I was friendly. I was very friendly. I engaged them in a conversation. I invited them in the house. We talked for an hour, and I talked about what I believed and what they believed, and I thought it was pretty clear at the end of our conversation that our conversation was probably not going to go any deeper. Because Jehovah's Witnesses believe some different things than I believe. And that's okay. I'm not going to get into it. I talked about Jesus. They talked about Jesus. Their Jesus was different than my Jesus. That's okay. I'm not going to pound them about it. So now they're at the front door again. The last time we engaged Jehovah's Witnesses for 3 or 4 conversations, about the 4th conversation, they told me I was wrong. And that's one of the things you just don't want to ever do with me. Don't ever tell me I'm wrong. You can tell me I could be off a little bit, but don't ever say, "Well, the problem you have, James, is you're wrong." Especially when you're talking about God. I realize I don't have all the answers about God, but don't tell me my conception of God is just totally wrong. And somewhere around the 4th conversation, the last time, in front of my house, someone told me I was wrong, that I didn't really have the truth. That, if I only believed what he believed, I would have the real truth. And that was a Jehovah's Witness that told me that. And so I had a choice. I could engage these 2 people at my front door on Wednesday, I guess it was, for a long period of time, or I could be short. I didn't invite them in this time. But I decided I wasn't going to be completely unkind. Because after all, I'm preaching about kindness this week. It would be really bad for me to not practice it this week, at least as best I could. So I stepped out in the front door, and the same woman who had come before came, but she brought some other guy, some experty guy, with her who was going to talk to me. And you were so friendly the last time, we thought we'd come back and talk to you. And I thought, "Oh, that's a delight, but I'm really getting ready to leave." Well, that didn't end the conversation. We had some other things to say, and I said, I appreciate you coming to see me. And I said, so then I used statistics. This is always good. I thought I would use statistics. The largest growing population, I said, I can really appreciate your zeal going door to door. The largest growing population in the United States right now of any kind of religious group is the nuns, the people who don't believe anything, the people who are unaffiliated with church, not NUNs, not the kind that, go and live in convents. I'm talking about people who have no religious affiliation at all. That's the largest growing group. I think this kind of zeal of going door to door and chatting with people might have an opportunity to open up those conversations. I'm a person of faith. You don't need to work on me. There's somebody else down the street. There's lots of other people probably down the street. This did not go either. This did not end our conversation. Did we talk about patience already? Okay, so I had to exercise 2 of the fruits of the Spirit at once because I wanted to be patient and I wanted to be kind. So they went on, and I said, let me just explain to you that for me, our conversation is over. And I just need you to understand why. X number of years ago that I can't remember exactly when, one of your folks came to our door, talked to us, came back and talked to us, came back and talked to us, and the last time they came to talk to us told us we were wrong. That is just not effective. And he made a joke of it, of course. He said, he was probably newly baptized. Those people are zealous. You just can't ever get past. I was like, no, I don't know what it was, but we don't need to have this conversation. You think I'm wrong already. Let's be honest. Tell me, do you think I'm wrong? Well, they hemmed and hawed, but they pretty much were sure because I'm United Methodist pastor, I'm going straight to hell. I mean, that's pretty much the way that it was. It was clear. Now, I know lots of people that think I'm going straight to hell, but it has nothing to do with my United Methodist pastoring. I said, you clearly don't think I'm going to cut it. And it's going to come out eventually. One of my vows, I even used it, one of my vows, as a United Methodist clergy person, one of my vows is not to waste my time. And if I'm going to talk to you only to have you to tell me somewhere down the road that I'm wrong, then it's not really a conversation. It's one-sided. You're here to monologue with me until I give in to studying your materials. That's what you asked me to do earlier. That's what you want me to do. And I have a very full life that doesn't include time to do that. I'm still trying to be really kind. I know you can't see it. I'm looking at some of your faces, and you're shaking your head, and you say, James is just not being kind at this point. I still had a smile on my face. I was trying to be kind. But even then, it didn't work. So, we were at a new elevation. I used to work in customer service, and we elevated from people to people. I wish I had Linda at the house. Oh, you've elevated now to the manager. High command is coming out. You will leave. But there was no Linda, and Josh was not going to do that. Josh was quietly hiding in the back. So I just had to say, listen, I don't know how to say this any other way, but our conversation is over. My son and I are about to take a walk. I encourage you in your work. I will pray for you, but I encourage you, our conversation is over. Now, I'm not sure what that example was about. Was there kindness in it? There was. Was there a point at which my kindness wore out? Clearly, it's a fruit I'm working on. God, the Spirit, is working on growing in me. I tried to be as kind as I could for as long as I could, but the patience part wore out, so that the kindness wore out too. These fruits grow together by the power of the Spirit. Now, I want to take you to an even deeper, scarier place. Because that was just common pleasantries. Did you hear what Marge read to you this morning? And I say to you who are willing to hear. Willing to hear. That was the key part that our friend, the writer of the Gospel of Luke, says. I'm writing to you for, if you're willing to hear. First, we have to be willing to hear what kindness is all about. It tells me then that I am supposed to love my enemies. I'm supposed to pray for those who mistreat me. I'm supposed to go the second mile. If you try to rob me of my coat, I'm supposed to take off my shirt and give that to you too, and not even want it back later on. I am supposed to lend you money and never expect you to return it. And let's just be honest. Unless you're a bank, if somebody asks you for money, you can't ever guarantee it's ever coming back. That's the hard part that we sometimes learn the hard way. I've learned it. You know, it's got to, in my mind, I don't know. So I got to, if I'm going to lend, I've got to give it like I don't expect it ever to come back. God wants me to treat everybody else the way I would want to be treated. Gosh, this kindness thing stretches you to the limit of your being. It would be so fine if all I had to say was please and thank you. I can still remember when we used to go to, Hannah and Josh were really good at that whole please and thank you thing. And we would go to restaurants when they were little, when we could afford to go to restaurants. Probably when we couldn't afford to go to restaurants, we went to restaurants too when the children were little. And we would go in there, and when someone would pour them another glass of tea, they would say thank you. When they needed a napkin, they would say, please, can I have another napkin? We got complimented on their ability to say please and thank you so much, it went to our heads. We thought that's all there was to kindness, but there is so much more. So if you've got the basics, then keep working them. Keep working it. Don't forget please, don't forget thank you, but don't forget compliments too. How does it feel when somebody tells you that you look nice? How does it feel when somebody says, I really like your hairstyle? You've changed your hair, haven't you? Or, oh my gosh, you're not nearly as gray as you used to be. What happened? No, it's not a compliment. Did you see how I suddenly twisted that? That is not a compliment. How does it make you feel? Because kindness is about imagining what the other person is going to feel and realizing how nice it is. And not just doing it in a perfunctory way. For years, as a United Methodist pastor, in many other churches I served, even in my first years at St. James especially, I always stood next to the door. And in order to get out of this building, unless you knew that that exit goes outside too, you had to get by me. And you had to say something. And you know, in a perfunctory society as we live in today, everyone says, great sermon preacher. Don't ever waste that compliment on me. I don't care if you thought it was from God himself. If you say, great sermon preacher, I hear that as, you didn't think about it, you're trying to get out the door, goodbye. If you just want to say goodbye to me, say goodbye. You don't have to compliment me on, I don't ask Linda every once in a while, I'll sit down next to Linda after I preach, and Linda will say, that was really good today. Okay. On the Sundays that I want the truth too, that's the truth, because she doesn't say it to me unless she feels it. So it doesn't happen all the time. I'll say, how was that sermon? And she'll tell me. And sometimes it's not particularly complimentary. James, I don't think you read the Bible passage this week. I don't think you read it because it didn't say what you said. Okay, honey, thanks. I'll work on, I've got next week. Maybe. The truth is, being kind is about stretching ourselves. It's about taking this moment, this opportunity, this encounter with this stranger or with this person you know, and saying, I appreciate you. Thank you for what you've done. It's freaking out the person at Target. I was in the Target line the other day, and this woman had just gone through this crazy person who decided to return half the things that they were returning in the middle of the whole process. So I'd been standing in line for, you know how lines work. I choose the one that's going to take 30 minutes to get through. I don't know how I choose it. It's like magic. So I get up there to the front, and I say, I can tell you, how's your day been? She said, well, I've had some better days. I said, isn't that the way it is with every day? But you know what? The great news is it's beautiful outside. It's a little warm, but you're here in this cool air-conditioned building, and you've treated me so well. I just want to thank you for what a great job you've done for me. And I think I left her feeling differently than when I arrived at her station. and I meant what I said. You can change the fabric of the world in which we live if you live into the kindness God has already shown you. God was kind enough to wake you up this morning. God was kind enough to bring you into this setting. God was kind enough to, kind enough to me for you to be patient enough to sit quietly while I'm talking to you and occasionally smile. Makes me feel, reassured that, apparently you are listening. Occasionally get a furrowed brow. That also tells me you're listening. Sometimes shake your head. I absolutely then know that you are listening. You see, kindness is all around. And you get to make the choice about what you put out. One of the fruits that the Spirit wants to grow in every one of you is kindness. And it's so easy sometimes. But all it does is that idea of a soft word turneth away wrath. I remember listening to that my whole life, and I thought, no, if you want to turn away wrath, you got to blast back. Boom! But that's not what the Bible says. A gentle word, a kind word, can turn things around. Have you ever felt an argument escalating? And you can say the next thing, and you know what's going to happen then. The next thing's going to happen, and the next thing. What happens if you short-circuit that process and say, you know what? Let's not argue about this. I may be wrong about this. Maybe you're right. Let's think about this for a while and come back to it before this turns ugly. Now, that doesn't sound like kindness, but it is. Rather than letting it get ugly, stepping back. And you know what? That's a gift from God too. Ultimate kindness. There's this wonderful, powerful story. A man loved humanity enough that as he looked down from the cross at the very ones who had nailed him there, his words to God were not, fry him. It was, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. That's an amazing amount of kindness that grows out of a deep and abounding love. You see, kindness grows in us. It's a fruit. It ripens with time. Practice it in the little ways. Please, thank you. Compliments to people that you know, that you mean. Going out of your way. Think about the things that you might have missed. I could have said thank you to that person. I should have written a thank you note because they were so kind to me. But I missed it. Last time I gave somebody something, they wrote me this wonderful thank you note, and it turned my life around. It made me feel better. The best moments of ministry for me often come completely out of the blue when a card shows up in the mail and somebody says, James, you'll never know. A young woman I hadn't seen in 15 years sent me an email. James, you'll never know. I found you online. I found the James Show online. And her kind words, she didn't say it that way, but her kind words to me, Linda said, you got to save that, James. For the days when you feel like, because that, for the next week, I didn't feel like I could do wrong. Somebody could be mean to me, I could just love them back because that compliment lifted me to a new place. Do you see the power of kindness? Have you felt the power of kindness? The power of love? Turns things upside down. So, this is a fruit. This is a wonderful fruit that's worth cultivating in your garden that the Spirit's already working on in you, that every single one of you can have. Practice it this week. I challenge you to practice it this week. Say please and thank you. You probably already do that. every day that you get up, think to be kind by giving someone you run into a compliment. Not an offhanded one, a real one. And if that's enough of a stretch for you, as you water your houseplants, let it be a reminder to you that kindness is even bigger than just to other human beings. Are you kind to your dogs and cats? Are you kind to God's creation? Do you thank God when you see those beautiful flowers? One of these days, just stop and look at those azaleas. They come in these rich, beautiful colors. Isn't it amazing? Practice kindness this week. Practice kindness this week.